What's going on, everybody? So today in this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating reminder automations and enabling you to track SLAs in Airtable. So as you can see, I've already built this request and approval workflow system. At the end of the video, I'm going to give a link in the end screen to where you can see how to create a simple approval system. But what we're going to be adding right now is a reminder system and tracking SLAs. So let's jump into it. We're going to be adding this to our approvals table, which we have already built in Airtable. That's where we're going to be adding all of this. So let's go in here and click edit on the interface. So we're already in an Airtable interface is what this is called. If you click in the top left on the name of the base or interface, click edit right here. I'm going to minimize pages over here, and we're going to first just add some fields here. So I believe I may have already added one field called SLA, but we're going to go through a few different examples of SLA right now. So an SLA, typically we're tracking like the number of hours that you expect to receive a response on something. That's most of the time when talking to people about SLAs, that's what they want to see. So what we're going to add here is a formula, and we're going to show just two different ways to do it, whether it's in terms of number of days or the number of hours. Maybe we'll do a bonus and do number of workdays. So let's go in here and click edit field. So if I go into SLA, this is a formula field using DateTimeDiff. This is not always advised, but it's using the now formula. Not always advised because now refreshes in your base pretty frequently. But in this case, I think it's appropriate. It just requires a lot of processing power of Airtable, which can sometimes slow down your base. Wouldn't worry too much about it here. But this is saying DateTimeDiff between now, the current time, and the approval date, which is a last modified field. Approval date is watching when was the last time the approval status was modified, and then it's saying give me the difference between now, that date, in terms of hours. So that is what this is going to return. If I go maybe on a different one of these, you can see this one is returning 2. That means 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours since this approval status was checked. So that's how you do that. If I wanted to create this from scratch, what I would do is I would click this little blue plus from my interface, or in whatever table you want to do this in, create a new field. This is going to be, the field type is going to be a formula. I like to get to that fast by typing in the letter F. So we have formulas. I'm going to name this SLA workdays. We're actually going to jump straight to the fun one. And our formula, if you search for workday, you get the option between workday and WorkdayDiff. Workday, although not intuitively named, it means like add this many days to a date, but the number of days you're adding is in terms of a number of workdays. So excluding Saturdays and Sundays and any holidays that you define. WorkdayDiff tells you, here's the difference between this date and this date, but only give me, again, Mondays and Fridays or any holidays that you defined. So WorkdayDiff, we should be able to say start date and end date. Now, I feel like I always get this backwards, whether to put like, because I want a positive number, not a negative number. But we're just going to start by saying, we could either say that last modified field, or you could use a last modified formula. To show you something different than the other SLA field, I'm going to use the last modified time formula. Fun fact with that formula is you can reference a field within it. So I want to reference the approval status. So between whatever date and time the approval status was last modified, and because this is going to return days, I'm just going to use the today formula, not the now formula. And let's see if this gives me positive. So I think that should be right. Positive. So this is going to return how many work days. The reason for this is maybe I want to send a notification when it gets past a certain number of work days, which is what we're going to be going into next. So this is how you track that. This is how you create an SLA formula based on a last modified field. You may want to do something slightly different, because like you may want to basically timestamp values, which if you search on my channel, there's a video where it talks about timestamping when a status changes. Because if I now go change this status back to, if I change it to rejected, then approved, even though it was previously approved at like 2 p.m., it's now updated to 4 p.m. So if you want to like timestamp a date time, you may choose to do that instead of using this field that I've used. But that's just something to consider. Now, if I jump into automations, I want to say if something is pending for X number of days, let's say 5 work days, or if you wanted to use hours, you could say like, what would that be? Like 120 hours, something like that. If we go into automations, we're going to create a reminder system. So if something is still in pending, so in the approvals workflow, if something is where the SLA in terms of work days is greater than 5, none of these are going to be that. So I won't have any test records. But if the SLA was over 5 and the approval status is any of pending, then I want to send an email. So in here, in the 2, I would include, I search like the email field, click into this and choose value right there. And I would say like reminder, and then I would probably pull a very similar copy from this one right here where I said new request ready for your approval. I would come back here into this email, add that there. And then for the message, I would again go back to my other email automation that I've already created, copy all of that, and then just do some cleanup. So here, this is what it did look like. I'm just going to swap these out. So I'm going to say edit token, fix this. So click back on the trigger and choose approver. And if you didn't copy and paste like I did and mess all this up, how you would do this is you would click up here in the plus to pull in anything from the triggering record. Click on the trigger if it's not already. And then I want to include a page URL to be the approval review page, which is the one we were just on. So this is now going to create a reminder email to whoever is assigned. And we can now track and report on SLAs. So if I go back into like the interface, if you wanted to create a dashboard where you said like you wanted to use that SLA field that we just created. So right here, we created this SLA field. You could start tracking like for this approver, what is the average SLA that they get? Like, does Ben Green usually take 5 hours to approve something, but everybody else on average takes 10 hours? Or maybe everybody else on average takes 2 hours? You can start to now, because you've calculated this, use that. And thinking through this, I'm probably wanting to use like, I would usually call this something like a rotting time. Like this is like a rotting timer, how long that status has been like sitting rotting there. If I wanted to do this slightly differently, I would do it based on the day that they were ready to approve it and when they did approve it, or when we got their first response. So that may be how I may switch this up. If you want to see like how we did this whole approval system, how we created this, go click the link in the end screen right here. But I hope this was valuable as far as how you create SLAs and how you create reminder emails. So go click the link in the end screen right here if you want to see like a pretty complex approval system be created in Airtable with lots of conditionals, lots of cool little email and template generation. So go check that video in the end screen, and I'll see you in that one.